A few days later, a Navy ship was sent to Laboratory 8, and Kizaru was the one who appeared. Due to his acquaintance with Dr. Vegapunk, he was sent by the government to talk. Upon entering, he immediately put down his communication device. The doctor boasted that he would create a new future for humanity in this place. His friend saw that Vegapunk was not at all familiar with the laboratory, to the point that he was constantly monitored by the government but still hadn't realized it. After pointing to the ceiling, the doctor finally discovered the device. He sighed and asked his friend what he was doing there. Kizaru said that all conversations here were being monitored, and Vegapunk's negotiations with pirates were unacceptable. The doctor angrily pointed and said he hated Kizaru's attitude. Kizaru didn't know what to say, only that he was there for work and couldn't disobey orders. Immediately after, the call connected with Saint Saturn on the other end of the line. He said that saving a child had nothing to do with the current work, even if Bartholomew Kuma was a perfect person to base clones on. The world government would never accept that a notorious pirate, with a 296 million berry bounty, would become the face of the Navy in the future. If the Navy used a clone of such a person, they would lose all face. The doctor, hearing this, thought that science didn't need to care about face at all. If the cloning project succeeded, they would save countless lives. Saturn admitted that if it succeeded, the government would gain immense power. So he wanted to propose 3 additional conditions for Kuma before agreeing to treat Bonney. First, Bartholomew Kuma would have to become one of the Shichibukai, meaning he would have to serve the government from now on. The reason was that recently, a rookie pirate named Ace had defeated a Shichibukai, so they needed someone to replace him. The pirate era had begun to stir, and Kuma was the perfect candidate. As for the second condition, he would have to become a weapon for the Navy, meaning Kuma's body would be modified to become a machine, because as a Shichibukai, with Kuma's special great power, he would become a great threat to pirates. This would greatly help the Navy, and Kizaru also supported it, but Dr. Vegapunk could not accept it. Saturn then continued, saying that since Kuma was a former member of the Revolutionary Army, he didn't want him to use his power against the world government. Therefore, the third condition was to give up all his mind and freedom. Hearing this, the old man immediately reacted strongly, because that would be no different from a death sentence waiting for Kuma. He asked Saturn if the other Shichibukai were not obeying him, that he had to go to this extent. A robot without will is just an empty shell, and he himself didn't want to become a murderer at all. The other party didn't give Vegapunk a choice. They called him the Navy's scientist. The 3 conditions above were the price to save the life of a criminal's daughter. If they didn't accept, the government had no obligation to spend a huge amount of money to operate on an unknown child. Bonney outside was still happily running around. For the doctor, performing surgery based on those 3 conditions was inhumane. With no other choice, Kuma made the final decision, which was to agree to follow Saturn's words. He asked Vegapunk to perform the surgery to save his daughter. At first, he thought the government would push the 2 father and daughter to the point where they couldn't be saved. But if Bonney lived, it wouldn't matter if he sacrificed his own life. He smiled through his tears, thinking Bonney was about to be saved. This was truly painful for Vegapunk, witnessing the father who loved his daughter so much wanting to sacrifice everything for her. The doctor couldn't hold back his tears and cried along. Outside, Sentomaru was talking to someone when he saw Bonney crawl over, the mischievous girl constantly teasing him. The body modification and complete treatment for Bonney were estimated to take about 6 months. After that, she would need another year before she could go outside. In total, it would be 1.5 years. As for Kuma's modification work, it would take at least 2 years to complete. Hearing this, he was very happy that Bonney could recover before her 10th birthday. Saint Saturn directly stated that his daughter was just a hostage, to ensure that Kuma would always obey. He wanted to send people to supervise Bonney after the surgery, and only when Kuma was no longer human would Bonney truly gain freedom. This meant that the father and daughter would not be able to meet after Bonney recovered. From now on, his job would be to serve the government as a Shichibukai. If he violated the agreement during this time, Bonney would be taken away as a slave. Kuma still agreed after hearing this, only asking to keep the secret about the origin of the disease and the fact that she was a hostage. Additionally, after the surgery, instead of keeping Bonney in this cold place, he wanted to take his young daughter back to the church in the Sorbet Kingdom, where she grew up. If he did so, he promised to absolutely obey and not visit Bonney again. Saturn then accepted. thinking that the next 2 years would be very interesting to watch. Outside, Bonney ran to call her dad, saying she was very well behaved, and that they would have to stay here for at least 6 months for the surgery. Kuma lied that he also had a disease and would need to stay for further examination. The father and daughter got acquainted with Sentomaru and asked him to play with Bonney during this time. Inside the laboratory, Dr. Vegapunk was trying to write down all his ideas for Kuma's modification, to the point where others had to help collect his notes. From here, Vegapunk also implemented the idea of creating copies of himself to reduce his workload. In the following period, Bonney underwent continuous surgeries, which made her bored. Fortunately, Sentomaru was there to play with her, even though he wasn't very free. But because he was so fond of this girl, the young man still agreed. As for Kuma, he was also beginning the process of transforming into a cyborg. Although it was quite painful, he was very happy when he saw his daughter laughing and playing happily. Sentomaru complained about how Kuma taught his daughter, always making him act as a horse for her to ride. That day, Bonney drew a picture for her dad as a gift. The doctor saw the scene of the father and daughter like this and didn't dare to wake them. Time passed peacefully. Everyone in the laboratory treated them very well. Even someone as difficult as Kizaru joined the party. Everyone learned to dance the Nika dance with Kuma happily. And after 6 months of treatment, Bonney's scale disease had made good progress. According to the assessment, it would be completely cured in just 1 more year. The girl even asked the doctor if she could visit him here after she recovered. Immediately after, the father and daughter returned to the church as planned. The old folks were overjoyed when they saw their granddaughter return. Knowing that Kuma would have to leave again, they agreed to take care of Bonney as usual. He said that he was a pirate and could not stay here for long. He wanted his daughter to write letters often to communicate, and promised that the next time he returned, the father and daughter would watch the sea together. At this time, Alpha, a government intelligence agent, was present. They would be the ones controlling Bonney during this time. They even built a base right next to the church, no different from a prison. She crushed a stone to warn Kuma that if he dared to disobey, Bonney would suffer a similar fate. The father and daughter had to say goodbye immediately after. He secretly wished that if his daughter fully recovered, they could meet one last time. Bonney, completely unaware, happily said goodbye, not knowing that this was the last time the father and daughter would meet. Kuma left with tears, and in the following period, the news of the tyrant Bartholomew Kuma joining the Shichibukai spread everywhere. Shaking the pirate world, those like Doflamingo felt extremely interested after hearing this news. They thought another villain had appeared. Robin was also quite curious about this person, and when she asked Crocodile what he thought, he didn't care, as long as it didn't affect him. It was fine. Besides them, many others were interested in Kuma. Among them was Ace, who had previously defeated a Shichibukai. He felt happy for Jinbei, but Jinbei blamed him for defeating Hanafuda, which led to everything turning out this way. The pirate world had begun to change since then. Boa Hancock had also just read about this information, but she didn't care. Only Kuma's former comrades in the Revolutionary Army didn't understand what had happened. They didn't believe their friend would become an enemy in the near future. As for Kuma, he was leisurely sailing the seas at this time, occasionally writing letters to his daughter to let her know he was fine. The place Kuma arrived at today was the East Blue, where Luffy was playing with a tiger. When Luffy was 16 years old, he always trained alone in the mountains to set sail and achieve his dream of becoming the Pirate King. Kuma also frequently visited the place and witnessed the main character destroying rocks by stretching his leg. Luffy was extremely confident in his abilities, even showing off to the animals he had beaten, scaring them. The young man thought that with his current strength, he could defeat anyone. Even Ace couldn't beat him. Kuma watched from behind and recalled the old days when he was active in the Revolutionary Army. Dragon occasionally visited this sea. Besides, he knew a lot about this country, even a small village. He also frequently observed a special boy, which made Kuma very curious. Dragon, hearing this, turned away displeased and threatened. "I'll deal with you right now if you keep talking about this." The reason is very simple. Children are a parent's weakness. Understanding the issue, Kuma apologized and swore he would not mention it again. Back to reality. Luffy was still showing off his abilities to the forest animals. He really wanted to become a pirate, form his own crew, and search for treasure. Seeing the two poor, scared animals, the main character also said that he wouldn't eat cowards, so they shouldn't worry. At this moment, a bell suddenly rang from Kuma's side, alerting Luffy. However, When he ran to check, he found no one. Only an indescribable chill down his spine remained. The main character thought that perhaps it was a powerful beast like the Lord of the Forest that was here. To find it, Luffy took a running start and destroyed the rock behind him, but still saw nothing. Meanwhile, Kuma received news that pirates were attacking at sea and had to be eliminated. With his abilities, he teleported directly to the scene. The people on the ship said that the pirates had robbed all their goods. Kuma also took the injured to a nearby hospital, ignoring the command to quickly eliminate the pirates. This man still did what he considered right. By evening, Bartholomew Kuma also found the pirate ship that had attacked earlier. Of course, these people knew about the reputation of one of the Shichibukai. The captain immediately ordered them to quickly return the goods to be spared. This was how this man operated. Looking up at the sky, Kuma remembered his daughter. Although he wrote many letters to Bonney, he had not received any reply since they parted ways. This world is full of beautiful scenery. Father wants to see your face light up when you see these sights someday. Back in the Sorbet Kingdom, Bonney checked the mailbox every day but received nothing. Everyone thought that Kuma was probably busy with work and couldn't send letters home. But the girl refused to believe it because her father had promised her that he would write many letters. Queen Connie advised the child to wait patiently, and the letters would be sent soon. Outside, Alpha had found today's newspaper, but it also contained a letter that Kuma had sent. She knew this trick from the beginning, so she always prevented the father and daughter from communicating. According to her calculations, about 10 letters from Kuma would be sent every month, but all of them had been torn up by Alpha, preventing Bonney from reading them. Inside the house, Bonney was extremely upset. To vent her anger, she transformed herself into an adult and demanded to fight. Outside, Alpha was also approaching, making Queen Connie worried. She asked the girl to transform back immediately to hide her devil fruit ability. The other woman looked surprised after seeing Bonney. However, the old woman distracted her, allowing her granddaughter to successfully shrink back and hide. When Alpha looked again, she thought she had been hallucinating, so she didn't suspect anything. She was also the one who gave the girl medicine every day. Others asked Queen Connie why she had to hide her granddaughter's ability. And they knew. A wise wolf needs to know how to hide its fangs. A scene changed to some time later at Dr. Vegapunk's laboratory. Today, Stussy stopped by to check on Kuma's condition. At present, this laboratory has been upgraded and is about to be lifted into the sky by Vegapunk along with his brain. She also complimented his new hairstyle, saying it looked very good. The doctor happily replied that he felt much lighter now, unlike before. As for Kuma, he was about to lose all will and become a true machine. She asked who would suffer more, a human without free will, or a clone with free will. Hearing this, the other friend just smiled without saying a word. Vegapunk also stopped her from saying more because she was still human. He also gave an example for Kuma. If ordered to kill a child, would he be able to do it? In this research, losing free will means losing all memories and emotions from being human. After checking everything, the three continued talking. Stussy wanted to know how Kuma felt. He must have been very worried about losing everything. This father still tried to appear strong, but he couldn't fool her. Stussy thought that losing all memories and emotions was something no one could accept, especially when he still had someone he cared about. Dr. Vegapunk really wanted to help, saying he would try to maintain his consciousness at a minimum level so he could fulfill his wishes. The remaining time was 1 year from now. Hearing this, Kuma continued to write letters to send to his daughter. In the coming year, he would write down all his lifelong emotions. Hearing this, Stussy felt quite happy. Bonney was almost 9 years old, so this was an early birthday greeting letter. Although he didn't know if it would reach Bonney. The scene shifts to the girl's birthday. Everyone at the church held a grand party to celebrate. Her favorite food was a special pizza made by Granny Connie. Everyone ate happily until evening. Unfortunately, no letter had arrived yet, making the child sad. She remembered what her grandmother had said, that she was always looking forward to it. Tears began to stream down her cheeks. Bonney blamed her father for promising to send her letters but none had appeared. The scene shifts to the Revolutionary Army headquarters. Dragon had just received news that Kuma had come to help again and seemed surprised. Thanks to this, their side escaped a dangerous situation. However, that comrade left immediately without saying anything. Hearing this, Dragon ordered them not to follow him, because that's what Kuma wanted. Just leave him be. He must have some unspoken reason. In the following period, Bonney finally recovered and could go out like a normal person. She ran to celebrate with the old woman when the stones on her face had completely disappeared. After asking to go out and play, Alpha stopped her, saying they were assigned to take care of her until her 10th birthday. The girl thought she was lying because Dr. Vegapunk had said she would recover within a year. She wanted them not to interfere anymore and ran outside, but was pulled back. The opponent did not hesitate to use force to warn her, forcing Bonney to give up. Later, Granny Connie said that those people were government intelligence agents. The day before, she had gone drinking and talked about Bonney's recovery. She didn't know the motive of those people. However, she had a bad feeling because Alpha wanted to keep the healthy child at home for another 6 months. It was also strange that Kuma hadn't sent any letters home. This could very well be related. To help her granddaughter, she talked to the Gyogyo group. She wanted Bonney to set sail and find her father, by transforming into an old woman so she could fool the government people. Just like that, as soon as she finished packing, the girl successfully disguised herself as Granny Connie and escaped. Kuma's childhood friends were not ordinary fishermen. Even local pirates and sea monsters were terrified of those people, so Bonney could completely trust them and set sail safely. After seeing the outside world, she was overjoyed, beginning to feel the warm winds and sunshine and everything around her. Witnessing the child they loved gain freedom, everyone in the church showed happiness. At this moment, Alpha felt something was wrong and immediately checked, but unfortunately only found Queen Connie there. The little girl had already run to the harbor with Uncle Gyogyo. They had prepared a pizza-shaped ship as a gift for their granddaughter. As for Alpha, after being tricked, she also showed anger, and immediately ran to the harbor to catch Bonney and bring her back. Although the ship had accelerated to its maximum speed, Alpha's ability was too great, pushing Bonney into a situation where she would lose her desire to reunite with her father. Bonney pushed herself to be stronger. Remembering her father's teachings about Nika, she transformed herself to become huge. Her arm then swelled, astonishing Alpha. It turned out that Kuma had previously told Bonney that Nika had a rubber-like body and fought in the way he liked. Just like that, Bonney unleashed a powerful punch directly at the opponent's face. To decide her own future just like Nika. News of Bonney's escape was reported to the government, and she eventually became a notorious pirate on par with Luffy. About a year later, Bonney set out to find her father. When her name was called, she became annoyed and demanded to be called captain because she was no longer a child. The uncles were very easygoing and followed her wishes. Seeing the island ahead, they guessed that Kuma was there, and Bonney was overjoyed. Although there were quite a few marines there, the crew still plunged into battle. By this time, Bonney had mastered her devil fruit ability. If she touched someone, that person would immediately turn into an old man or a child. Everyone called Kuma's name in unison but was avoided. Although he really wanted to talk to his daughter, he was afraid that once he met her, he would not be able to bear to leave her. So, he could only silently apologize to his daughter, annoyed that she still couldn't find her father. Bonney was advised by the crew to calm down, because now that they were pirates, they could go everywhere to find him. She said that she also needed to find Nika, because if she told her father that she had met Nika, he would be very happy. At the same time, Luffy, after setting sail, began to make a name for himself. He had defeated the Straw Hat Pirates and became famous in the pirate world with a bounty of 30 million belly. At the Revolutionary Army headquarters, Dragon, after learning that his son had become a pirate, Dragon was a little worried. Ace was also showing off his brother's achievements to Jinbei, surprising his friend. Kuma was also following Luffy and Bonney's journey. She took the form of a little girl but still had the soul of a child, asking the crew to only steal from bad guys. In addition, she also started wearing lipstick to look like an adult. Bonney's next goal was to become famous in the pirate world. That way, her father would pay attention to this daughter. In the new world, Kuma had returned to meet Dr. Vegapunk. This was also when the clone warriors based on Kuma were born. The body transformation process went quite smoothly. The doctor asked about the child who dared to declare war on the world government and was answered. That was Dragon's son. Even more coincidentally, Luffy fought against the government with his rubber ability. Just like the main character was exactly Nika, the hero in his imagination. The next time the Straw Hat Pirates defeated Gecko Moria, Kuma appeared on the government's orders. He asked the other crew members to surrender Luffy's life to be spared. However, no one wanted to betray their comrades, especially the captain, so Kuma attacked everyone and was stopped by Zoro. He wanted to use his life to exchange for Luffy's life. He also declared that his captain would become the Pirate King. It was said that Kuma agreed to push all the pain in the main character's body out. If Zoro wanted to endure it all, he would spare him. According to calculations, this pain was enough to make him faint. But Zoro was able to endure all the pain, which made Kuma extremely admire him. He thought that Luffy had good comrades, truly worthy of being Dragon's son. Time passed. Ace was captured by the Marines and was about to be executed. All the 7 warlords were summoned to prepare to fight the Whitebeard pirates. At the Sabaody archipelago, Bonney's pirate crew was eating and drinking. Because there wasn't much time left, Kuma could only watch his daughter from afar. He was also happy that she had become a strong pirate. Suddenly at this time, it was heard that a pirate had defeated a celestial dragon. Out of curiosity, Kuma secretly observed and discovered that it was the Straw Hat Pirates. Witnessing them standing up to save the fishman slave, Kuma was extremely moved. Images from the past appeared. What Luffy was doing was something no one dared to do. Moved by those scenes, when the Straw Hat Pirates were in danger, Kuma helped them, also silently apologizing to Dragon and Ivankov when he decided to disappear without a word. As a mark of his existence, before losing his memory, he wanted to entrust hope to the younger generation. So he took all the members of the Straw Hat Pirates everywhere to train. At that time, Luffy didn't understand anything, thinking that he had lost all his crewmates. So he cried a lot. The new world was very harsh. Kuma understood that the Straw Hat Pirates were still too weak. They had to try to train for a while, and one day they would be the saviors of the world. At the end of the Sabaody archipelago incident, Dr. Vegapunk was ordered to erase Kuma's memories immediately. He still tried to help his friend, but Saint Saturn disagreed, fearing that if Kuma caused trouble, no one would be strong enough to stop him. Still considering Dr. Vegapunk as a normal scientist hired by the government, Vegapunk only asked to keep a part of Kuma's memories, but was still refused. The order was to turn that person into a completely obedient machine, leaving no free will. Saturn himself was also a scientist, so he advised the doctor not to think that he could outsmart him. Sadly, he went to see his friend and was encouraged by Kuma. It seemed that this man had heard their conversation. Finally, the day he lost all his freedom arrived. Although they had only known each other for 2 years, they had many good memories. The first mission the doctor put into Kuma's head was to fight the Whitebeard pirates under the government's orders. After this mission, Kuma also wanted his friend to program another mission. That was to protect the ship for the Straw Hat Pirates until a crew member returned. That was their home and their future. Although he couldn't witness Luffy's growth, he put all his hope in the protagonist. He made his heart pound. Although Nika was just a legend, that legend had begun to come true. If there was a hero who could change the world, it had to be Luffy. Vegapunk agreed when he heard that. The last agreement between them was to review Kuma's memories. With his devil fruit ability, he left a copy outside. If you touch it, it will disappear, but it will help someone see all the memories inside. Vegapunk had a remote viewing device so he could see it without touching it. In his last moments, Kuma looked back at his life. From being a child living with his parents, to becoming a slave and losing all his loved ones. Everything was like a sad movie. When he met Ginny, he couldn't bring her happiness. And then major events began to happen. Ginny passed away forever due to illness. Kuma then became a father to take care of Bonney. But in the end he still couldn't have eternal happiness with his daughter. This man's life had gone through countless events. Every memory came back to his mind. Kuma himself always wanted to be a hero like Nika, who could save the suffering and oppressed. He also thanked his friends for appearing to save his soul. At this moment, Dr. Vegapunk also shed tears, but still had to carry out the government's orders. Kuma's death saddened his loved ones, calling this friend Bonney's hero and everyone's hero. Hearing that, Kuma said his last thanks. And immediately after, all his memories and free will disappeared. All that was left was a robot body that could only obey orders. Vegapunk cried in pain, and was asked to tell Bonney after meeting her. Happy 10th birthday. Bonney witnessed everything her father went through and could only cry. After reviewing all the memories her father left behind, Bonney emerged in a much better mood, even though she had cried a lot before. Dr. Vegapunk also breathed a sigh of relief, feeling that he had fulfilled his promise to Kuma. The girl was touched by what her father had to go through. So she rushed to hug Vegapunk's body, still in the form of a 10-year-old child, and apologized to him. After calming down, Dr. Vegapunk took out the 10th birthday gift Kuma had left. And knowing this, The girl was overjoyed to receive it. This necklace was shaped like the sun and was a symbol that she and her father loved very much. Bonney talked about the sun god Nika, while Dr. Vegapunk thought it was just a good luck charm. He also talked about Luffy, surprised that he had become such a strong warrior. Bonney also knew that the main character was the son of her father's best friend. And fate was truly strange to bring them both here. After Bonney entered that room, Luffy's group also rescued him. Too many things had happened here. So they sat and recounted what had just happened. And he also apologized to his granddaughter, saying that he was ultimately just a scientist hired by the government. Returning to the present, Saint Saturn was still holding Bonney's small body. And she believed that everything was this guy's fault. The other members below gradually lost feeling and couldn't move. They wondered what the hell was happening and learned it was related to Saint Saturn's devil fruit ability. Luffy, lying nearby, also woke up, demanding something to eat to regain his strength, begging someone to bring him food. Those involved were now all captured, and Bonney was informed by the opponent that Kuma had died. The scene shifted to the Revolutionary Army. Recently, too much news had occurred, causing people to worry. Ivankov also asked if Dragon was in a bad mood, while he wondered if Kuma was controlled by the remaining power. Where his friend was now. Ivankov thought that if it were him, he would rush straight into Mary Joie's without hesitation. But not for Kuma. He believed that his friend would go to meet the person he loved most. As for Bonney, Saturn declared that he would let the two father and daughter meet in hell. Surrounded by marine soldiers, her allies were all restrained and unable to move. The girl angrily wanted to struggle to escape by activating her devil fruit ability. At least she wanted to drag him down with her and not die alone. Her arm then swelled up like Nika's form, surprising everyone. For Bonney's future, she punched the opponent's face extremely hard. But nothing happened. Saturn also looked disdainful and asked if that was really a punch. The little girl felt her body weakening and wondered why. When Saint Saturn explained it, he continued to squeeze Bonney's body and talked about her knowing Nika's name but not truly knowing what it was. The old man secretly thought that the girl had not yet realized the connection between Nika and Luffy's white form. Otherwise, Bonney could have done something already. Below, the main character had now been given food, and he replenished his energy in front of the Marines, who understood nothing. When asked about this, they also didn't know where the food came from. Saint Saturn demanded that Luffy be immediately restrained with sea stone cuffs. Above, Bonney continued to try to activate her devil fruit ability to weaken the opponent. But it had no effect. His age could not be controlled like ordinary people. To answer this question, Saturn revealed that the real reason her power was weakening was because he was the one who granted her that ability. Hearing this, Bonney was very shocked. But for the old man, this was just an experiment to see if he could transfer power from a devil fruit to a newborn who couldn't eat yet. By extraction. And so Bonney was chosen. The experiment was successful. But the devil fruit itself was useless. It only allowed her to transform into possible future versions of herself. But the more she knew about reality, the more limited this ability became. When asked about Nika, Bonney confirmed that the sun god was real. Ever since my father was turned into a cyborg to serve you, I have always hoped to find Nika, hoping that person would save my father. However, Saturn believed that her weakening was proof that she was starting to believe Nika didn't exist. Speaking so truthfully that she couldn't argue back. He laughed when Kuma also believed in the Buccaneer tribe's legend. Kuma had also previously spoken about wanting to become Nika to help others. He himself was the one who conducted drug experiments on her mother. Ginny was the 8th wife of someone from the Holy Land. But those blue spots appeared. So the experiment was considered a failure. At this moment, Bonney remembered her father's image, her heart pounding as she learned truths she had never heard. Saturn found it interesting that even though the experiment with Ginny failed, the disease was inherited by Bonney. Outside the island, an explosion occurred. Someone had just landed at extremely high speed. The poor girl began to cry for her fate, after learning that he was the one who caused all the suffering for her mother. Bonney was very angry. Dr. Vegapunk was also angry when he learned that the disease his granddaughter suffered from was caused by Saturn, because of the sapphire scale disease. Their whole family had suffered. Kuma also had to sacrifice himself for it. And after all, it was all his plan. He knew from the beginning yet offered to turn Kuma into a cyborg so his daughter could live. The other party told Vegapunk to put himself in his shoes. To him, they were all insects. Who would care about the feelings of insects? At this moment, the person who appeared outside was Kuma, by some miracle. He wanted to come here to save Bonney. Explosions occurred one after another, making it impossible for the Marines to resist. The news of Bartholomew Kuma's appearance surprised everyone. Vegapunk also didn't know how his friend could get here. Saturn also didn't believe this. Bonney couldn't stop crying. She was extremely scared and couldn't say a word. The Marines also tried to shoot to stop Kuma's advance. But with his cyborg body, he continued to stand up. Having lost all will to fight, Bonney thought to herself, perhaps now if I die, everything will be better. She cried out in despair, making those below heartbroken. Her cries seemed to urge Kuma on more strongly. Saturn then ordered to shoot her head. But before he could do anything, Kuma shot forward, successfully freeing his daughter. The old man intended to use his foot to end everything. But Kuma used his body to shield her. When his daughter opened her eyes, she found herself in her father's palm. They hugged each other, but Kuma couldn't say a word. Looking at Bonney, Kuma knew what to do: directly confront Saint Saturn. The other party was surprised, not understanding why it turned out this way. Because Kuma should have died. Bonney then transformed back into her small form, making her father even angrier. Sad memories flooded back. His daughter burst into tears. Seemingly a few days after being rescued by the Revolutionary Army, Saint Saturn had pressed the self-destruct button to destroy Kuma. So he was sure that he was dead. But he didn't understand why he appeared now. With his power, Kuma strengthened his arm, then grabbed his opponent's beard and punched him directly in the face with hatred for what he had done to his family. The old man was blown away to everyone's surprise. Having taken a powerful blow from Kuma, Saint Saturn was severely injured and unable to get up immediately. The Marines were extremely worried about his safety and couldn't believe that Kuma had confronted one of the 5 most powerful people in the world. This was an unprecedented crime. But for Kuma, it no longer mattered. At this moment, all he wanted was to protect his daughter. His body, heavily injured, then collapsed from exhaustion, taking advantage of the Marines rushing to rescue Saint Saturn, who was crushed under the rubble. The others were now able to move normally again. Sanji quickly ran to Bonney to check if she was injured anywhere. Frankie said this was their chance, so they had to quickly get her onto the ship and escape. Atlas said she would take Kuma with them, but the very next second, they had to stop. Hearing Bonney's cries, her father, though tired, still managed to go over and comfort her. Witnessing this, Dr. Vegapunk wondered what had happened. According to theory, Kuma no longer had any memories. Yet, in his eyes, he still remembered Bonney. Slowly walking with a heavy body, he reached out and embraced his little daughter. Thanks to this, Bonney stopped crying and called out, "Dad." Seeing this scene, everyone was moved to tears. It had been too long since they had hugged like this. Vegapunk then recalled that he had not installed a bomb in Kuma's body as instructed by the government. He knew that if he did, they would use his friend as a suicide weapon. But in the end, he still had to follow the government's instructions. He installed a complete shutdown button inside Kuma. Yet his friend was still alive and here, protecting his beloved daughter. This left Saturn utterly astonished and unable to react, as he was the one who pressed the self-destruct button to deactivate Kuma. Somehow, that father still retained his own will. There was no reason for Kuma to act like this. He even flew here himself to find Bonney. Scientifically, it was completely inexplicable. Vegapunk then realized that the cause might be the special bloodline of the Buccaneers. Nearby, Admiral Kizaru was still sitting in one place, not acting. Sentomaru was also very happy to know that Kuma had come to save his daughter. The confusing thing was that Luffy had disappeared without a trace. The Marines were extremely worried and didn't know how to report it. At this moment, Bonney happily touched her father's mechanical body, saying thank you, and also revealed that she had seen all of his memories, from when Kuma was born and lived with his family, until they were enslaved by the celestial dragons. Kuma also began to remember everything, from the time his father told him his mother had gone to heaven, and how both father and son were in immense pain and could only cry. Then came the escape from hell at God Valley with Ivankov and Ginny. when they successfully created a miracle, saving all slaves from their death sentences. And then the memory of Bonney being brought to him to care for. Gradually, his daughter grew up, and the two of them made a promise to explore the world together. And if they reached the Sky Island, they could find Nika. This was what Bonney was looking forward to. And when she turned 19, she wanted to go to Fishman Island. The picture Bonney drew for Kuma later became his symbolic flag. Looking at it, this father remembered his little daughter. Their time in Dr. Vegapunk's research lab was also very happy. Occasionally, they would all sit and eat pizza together. Kuma had once thanked Bonney for being born into this world. Now, recalling those memories, both father and daughter were very happy. The little girl also praised her father as an incredibly wonderful person. These words made Kuma remember Ginny's image when she was young. Bonney's mother always acted strong to protect Kuma. Unfortunately, this couple could not be together, even though they both loved each other very much. When Bonney saw that part, she knew how much her father had to sacrifice to protect her and her mother. She was very happy to know that he had written many letters to her during their time apart. Even though she only recently read them through her father's memories, she was very happy. This father always wanted his daughter to see the beautiful scenery in real life, not just through books. And finally, there was the message that he loved her. The time spent in the research lab with Vegapunk was also very interesting. So he invited Bonney to come there for an adventure once she recovered. In the 2 years before he became a cyborg, Kuma tried to go to all the distant places in the world to explore. Even if everyone called him a tyrant, Bonney still loved her father very much. And he was the kindest and most wonderful person in the world. The Marines were currently gathering forces to rescue Saint Saturn, and immediately after, his power erupted, blowing everyone away. He was extremely angry at being punched by Kuma. And Sanji's group was worried because they thought they had already defeated him. The opponent then jumped out of the rubble with serious injuries. And Frankie was surprised that Kuma's attack was effective. Saturn asked Vegapunk what was going on. Had he secretly influenced Kuma's body? The doctor didn't know how to explain it, saying it was the power of love. The opponent heard this and considered it a bug. The dark power then helped him regenerate his body as if nothing had happened. Facing an enemy of this caliber made Sanji worried. But as soon as the opponent targeted Kuma, he rushed out to help. The Straw Hat Pirates had been helped a lot by Kuma, so this was the time to repay him. Frankie was about to fire a laser when Admiral Kizaru intervened. He praised them for developing so much and wanted to see if that growth could stop him. Although Frankie managed to shoot through Saturn, he was also defeated. Bonney ran over and asked the doctor to save her father because he couldn't move right now. Vegapunk asked Atlas to carry their friend away while they stayed to hold them off. Sanji and Frankie also intended to stay but were sent away by the scientist so he could handle it himself. Admiral Kizaru wanted to end this here. The old friend felt that Kizaru was truly pitiful, recalling the time they spent together playing happily. This admiral admitted that he was indeed pitiful for not being able to cry, thinking it would have been better if he had worn dark sunglasses today. Outside, the warships had received orders to punish those who challenged the world government. This island was considered a threat, so everything would be burned down just like Ohara. Saint Saturn declared that those who study the world's secrets, those who carry the bloodline of a vanished race, those who awaken the ancient god, this island is where all that he declared converges. So it must be destroyed. The Buster Call order has been activated, and all naval warships off the coast are ready to fire. Dr. Vegapunk asked Saint Saturn to revoke that order, because this place is the future of humanity. Sanji's group was trying to get Kuma to hide, and Bonney was very sad to see her father unable to move. Her eyes began to tear up, feeling sorry for her father. Returning to Vegapunk's negotiation, even though he said Egghead was the future of humanity, the other party still disagreed. A subordinate came to invite the two leaders back to the ship because it was very dangerous here. But the old man said that he and Kizaru would stay here until the very end. After preparing for the bombardment, they should immediately open fire. The vice admirals hesitated upon hearing this but were dismissed by Admiral Kizaru. Dr. Vegapunk thought that if only he died, everything would end. So why destroy this island? Egghead stores many of the latest research achievements from all fields. If it is destroyed, humanity's scientific progress will regress by 100 years. His old friend turned to Kizaru for help. But Kizaru looked sad and just turned away. Unable to help, Saturn asked if Dr. Vegapunk was hiding anything else from the world government. Or if he was secretly creating something troublesome. If so, he didn't need progress that carried rebellious ideas. The genius scientist bowed his head and begged one more time. Unexpectedly, the other person revealed that he had sent a fleet to destroy the ship that left the island yesterday, carrying all the scientists working there. The reason given was that there was someone on that ship who knew something about the Void Century. Hearing this, Dr. Vegapunk asked heartbrokenly why he did that. They knew nothing, they were all innocent people. Saturn blamed him for dragging them into this. Just like the people of Ohara, they were drawn into the desire to explore things from the past that no one was allowed to know. He angrily said that Vegapunk was foolish, so he should disappear forever with this island. Off the coast, all the soldiers were retreating from the island, everything was ready, so they could open fire immediately. As for Sanji, he was urging his teammates to quickly go to the rendezvous point. While Vegapunk was stalling for time, they had to seize this opportunity. Bonney asked what about him, and Sanji smiled and replied, "Don't worry, I'll go there and bring the doctor along." Frankie also relied entirely on him and wished him good luck. The young man quickly contacted Nami's group to ask about the situation there. Everyone seemed to have reached the back gate. Nami was shocked to learn that the Marines had activated the Buster Call order. Their crew had faced it countless times, so Usopp and Chopper were very scared. Robin was seriously injured but quite worried about the others. She wanted to do something to help but couldn't. Chopper saw this and advised his friend not to do anything but to rest. Nami asked about the captain and learned that he hadn't been seen yet. However, Sanji guessed that Luffy would be fine. The important thing was to find a way to escape here immediately. Currently, Zoro was still holding off Lucci and couldn't return, so Jinbei also had to go there to help, because if he left him alone, he would definitely get lost. Brook was currently helping Lilith move the Sunny. Their original plan had fallen apart because Vegaforce 01 had been destroyed by Kizaru. Fortunately, their musician had another idea. With his ability, he froze the surface of the clouds so that the ship could glide smoothly. The girl praised the skeleton for being so good. With this method, they would reach the back entrance soon. Praised as a genius, Brook was very happy. When Lilith asked how to stop the ship, he said he hadn't thought of that yet. As a result, the girl slapped him for being so stupid. If they continued like this, they would fall straight down. Brook cried out for help. Not knowing what to do, the scene shifts to the Marines. After seeing the protective barrier still in place above, he ordered them to fire into the urban area first. The target was to destroy the central factory and the future city. Hundreds of cannonballs were fired simultaneously. The rain of bombs worsened the situation. Yet at this moment, someone was still eating comfortably. Luffy's stomach was so full he couldn't eat anymore. There were still a few Marine soldiers blocking his escape. However, the subsequent bomb rain blew them all away. Luffy, being made of rubber, was also bounced elsewhere. The unfortunate ones who hadn't returned to their ships in time shared the same fate as the island. With buildings continuously collapsing, pacifistas continuously fired with terrifying power, piercing through everything. The future Vegapunk had built collapsed right before his eyes. He watched heartbroken as his empire gradually disappeared, his emotions completely gone. The doctor collapsed, as the future of humanity ended here, along with his own distant dreams. Saturn looked at Kizaru, ordering the admiral to finish off his close friend. He accepted the order, gritting his teeth and moving forward. Sanji arrived just in time, urging Dr. Vegapunk to run. On the other side, Atlas was activating the travel device. After launching at the speed of sound, Frankie was extremely excited. The travel time was only a little over 30 seconds. Unfortunately, the pipeline passed by Kizaru. With his devil fruit ability, even at the speed of sound, he could still catch up. As a result, the group inside the rocket was cut in half. They flew out, putting everyone in danger. Sanji angrily cursed Kizaru, then tried to fly up to save his comrades. Saint Saturn saw Kuma and immediately ordered the pacifistas to target the father and daughter. Bonney reached out for her father's body. They became the new targets of the cyborgs. Unable to do anything, the daughter's cry of "Father" made Kuma regain consciousness for a moment. He used all his remaining strength to hug Bonney and shield her with his back. The little girl was moved to tears, thinking that at least if they died, the father and daughter would be together. The scoundrel looked at this scene with glee. He thought of the daughter Kuma risked his life to save. now having to die at the hands of his own clones. This was truly deserved for a bunch of insects. Dr. Vegapunk was also heartbroken seeing the people he loved in danger. Earlier, after hearing that his granddaughter had become a pirate, the worst-case scenario had appeared in his mind: the pacifistas, shaped like Kuma, would personally shoot her down. This was truly heartbreaking beyond words. A barrage of destructive beams fired towards them. Sanji tried to approach and help. The scene shifts to the warship fleet ordered to eliminate the scientists leaving the now burning island. It's unclear what happened. The surviving marine soldier tried to report to Admiral Kizaru that they had failed to destroy the exploration ship, and someone was heading towards Egghead. At this moment, Luffy was being threatened by dozens of marine soldiers with guns. They demanded that the Sea Emperor surrender immediately. However, the main character just glared, calling them all weaklings and telling them not to order him around. Just like that, his large, round body immediately shrank back to its normal shape. Digesting a large amount of food in a short time was too illogical, astonishing the marine soldiers. They believed that Luffy was indeed not human, because who could make their belly swell to its maximum and then shrink down so quickly? Since bombs and bullets were still raining down on the island, the soldiers ignored Luffy and returned to their ships, as it was too dangerous there. A loud laugh came from within the smoke, which provoked the remaining marine soldiers. Just as they were about to use sea stone handcuffs to neutralize his devil fruit power, the ground suddenly turned into rubber. The warrior of liberation had returned. Once again, Luffy, in his sun god Nika form, was incredibly joyful, laughing and joking, scaring everyone away. On the coast, the Marines were still using warships to shell the island. The damage was immense, but Dr. Vegapunk didn't care about that now. What he feared was that Bonney and the others would die. Knowing he needed to do this to save everyone, the doctor called Atlas to relay a message to his granddaughter. While Saturn and Kizaru weren't paying attention, Vegapunk had completed his mission. He urged Atlas to quickly tell Bonney about this. Below, Sanji was also trying to get close to rescue them. Below were a series of cyborgs ready to open fire. Atlas tried to approach the father and daughter to deliver the message from the doctor. It was a gift Vegapunk had for his beloved granddaughter. Understanding everything, Bonney looked at her father, then turned around and shouted loudly for the pacifistas below to hear. She told them not to shoot Dad, and to help them escape this island. Upon hearing that command, all the cyborgs immediately stopped and turned to aim at the marine warships. This was a huge shock that left the other side no time to react. Just like that, many warships were shot down in an instant. Perhaps this was the final mission of the pacifistas when they were created by Dr. Vegapunk. The damage to the Marines was immense. The only thing he worried about ultimately did not come true. The years Bonney and her father lived in the laboratory. From that moment, the doctor had foreseen that the future would become like this. What could be more terrifying than being killed by one's own beloved father? To prevent Kuma from harming his own daughter, Vegapunk programmed a special command into all Kuma-like units that only he knew. Even if they received orders from the government, or even if the world turned its back on the father and daughter, the Kuma-shaped pacifistas would forever stay with Bonney and protect her. This was his own selfish wish, and the consequence of this action was being stabbed through the chest by Saturn. The doctor had foreseen the consequences but still accepted it. Witnessing that scene, everyone was worried, but the danger had not disappeared. Kizaru had been ordered to eliminate everyone. Above, with the speed of light, he flew towards the father and daughter to attack. Just like that, everyone was hit. Sanji tried to counterattack but it was useless. Kizaru approached Bonney and told her not to worry. He would finish it quickly so she wouldn't feel any pain. At the most critical moment, the laugh of the warrior of liberation rang out. In the very next second, a giant, reinforced fist punched the Marine Admiral far away. The girl knew it was Straw Hat Luffy, but she had no idea where he was. After eating his fill, he had enough strength. Just like that, the entire island was transformed into highly elastic rubber. The building swayed to the joyful laughter coming from the main character. Saint Saturn poked the ground with his staff, realizing that everything here now had the properties of rubber. The warrior also approached, thinking this game was starting to get fun thanks to Luffy's special ability. The group of friends were unharmed after falling from the sky. But they still faced a formidable enemy they couldn't defeat. Their only hope at this point was probably Luffy himself. Outside in the sea, the pacifistas were still firing at warships, and the Marines were trying their best to stop the biological robots. Admiral Kizaru, after being knocked away by the main character, was dazed and unable to get up. Bonney saw Dr. Vegapunk lying on the ground and immediately ran to check on him. He was still alive, so his granddaughter urged him to quickly get up and run. Their enemy advised them not to resist in vain. However, at this moment, Luffy arrived, making the buildings shake. The old man called him a troublesome brat. The drums of liberation that Luffy created once again awakened the giant robot on the island. This rhythm also helped Bonney start to realize something. Back when the father and daughter were still at the church, they often talked about Nika, the legendary warrior. Kuma really wanted to become a hero to save the oppressed and suffering. His daughter also asked if he would come to save her, and he said of course. So, the father and daughter danced to the rhythm of liberation that Kuma knew. Legend says that Nika will come with laughter and move to this rhythm. The drums of liberation grew louder and louder. Bonney intently looked at Luffy's current appearance. Everything matched her father's description of the hero of liberation. Dr. Vegapunk then confirmed that everything his granddaughter was thinking was true. At first, he didn't believe it, but after witnessing it with his own eyes, he understood. Luffy, the one Kuma entrusted his faith in, was the embodiment of the sun god Nika. So, the person she had been searching for all this time was here. Bonney was moved to tears and looked towards her father. Kuma was completely right, as everything he said about Nika was true. A hero who would powerfully change this world. Currently, the order to destroy this island was no longer effective, because out there, many people had been waiting for Nika for centuries. At the same time, a giant ship was approaching from the sea. They realized that the battle had begun, and as the newspapers had reported, both of them were here. The Marines then continued to receive bad news, that a giant ship was approaching from behind. Seeing that symbol, a vice admiral had to send an alarm to all warships that the giants were coming. This was completely unexpected because everyone thought the two people on that ship had disbanded 100 years ago. The only thing that could make them present here was Luffy. So the Marines fired cannons at the giant ship. However, their firepower was too weak to cause any damage. To answer the question of why Dory and Brogy were here, the two giant warriors jumped down. Submerging the marine ship, they laughed and unleashed powerful slashes, threatening the small people below. Of course, both of them were here at Luffy's call. Or rather, the sun gods. The giant pirate crew officially landed on the island.